Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us on your quick lunch break or, your downtime at night after you have got home for the day or you've put away your computer for the day from working at home. I'm Michaela with White Carpet Ready. We are the bridal subscription box. We are education purposed. We do also have White Carpet Bride. We serve in the Kansas City area, lots of brides and everybody in between with hair and makeup. And our goal is to give education, because you can have all of the fun things, but if you don't know how to use them or even know what you have, you're missing out. And so we want to give the best well-rounded experience that we can to every single bride out there. And we feel like it's super important to touch base with other people who have other skill sets too in the industry. I have joining us today Julie Smith with Mike and Julie Storytellers. They're photographers here local as well. They do all kinds of really cool, fun things. We're just gonna chat in just for a couple of minutes and hopefully give you guys some new info and fun things you didn't know. So this is Julie. Wave, Julie. Just introduce yourself really quick and tell everybody what you guys do.
So I'm half of Mike and Julie Storytellers. So I'm Julie, and we used to be called J. Smith Innovations. So if you've ever heard of JSI Photography or J. Smith Innovations and you're like, what? We made that transition a few years ago because everyone called us Mike and Julie. So that was a hint there that we should swing to a name change. But the Storytellers part is what makes us get up in the morning. We love telling the real story with our camera. It's been so much fun to develop as an artist and really find what lights you up. It's so important for all of us artists to just, especially right now, be doing what we love. And back when everything got shut down, I so miss taking pictures, and it's been so wonderful to step back into it. So when we say storytellers, we mean not just the perfectly posed, not just the pretty. That's all great, and that photographs beautifully, but we also think that real photographs beautifully. So when you laugh and we capture that, and your family sees that real smile that they're used to seeing, that real laugh, that real expression, that capturing those things are what lights us up. Or, we've actually had a chance to tell some family stories this summer. And it's so nice to catch those little tiny things that families do, that kiddos do, that parents do with their kiddos, that might just be like little fleeting things. That might be your thing for this summer, and then it's gone. Your kiddos change, they grow up, they transition out of those little habits. So it's so nice to create a set of images for you that really captures the essence of what it's like to be in your family right now. And it's really fun to take that skill set to weddings as well, because the entire day is a huge opportunity to tell so many tiny little stories, things that just happen in the in-between big moments. So yeah, that's us.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really amazing. Well, so when it comes to weddings or engagement sessions and, anytime that you go and you capture those stories for people, we always, we've kind of adopted this little mantra that personality is important with the brides that we choose to work with on the White Carpet Bride side of things when we go do hair and makeup. And I know that's important to you also. Can you sort of dive into that a little bit and just from your experience, like why is that important to you, and how that personality fit changes and for good or bad or whatever throughout a portrait session, engagement session, a wedding day, like all of that stuff?
Absolutely. So just like you, we find that it's the first step is making sure that we like to say that like all this works, so that Mike and I are going to be all up in your bubble all day on your wedding day. You're going to want to hang out with somebody who you like having around, and you feel like contributes positively to your day. But you want someone, a photographer or any vendor that you choose to bring in to such an important event. You want to make sure that they're just on the same page with you. And the only way to do that is just to get to know each other. So when it comes to photography specifically, I feel like photography ends up being such an important and sometimes intimate choice on your wedding day because they do have access to you all day. So isn't it awesome to bring someone in who you know gets it? You have a vision for the day. You know what you love. You know what you prefer. You know what you want photographed. You know what you don't want photographed. We've had some brides who, you know, you could just tell that they weren't a big fan of, you know, XYZ being photographed. So we knew in those moments, because we'd gotten to know them, to just step back and maybe find something else to capture. But then on the flip side, the same thing. We have had some brides who, I mean, they laugh their faces off. I mean, just amazingly. And they're like, I want you to get every face, every expression, every goofiness, because that's me. So doesn't it help so much to have a photographer who already gets all that, so that on your wedding day, you can just relax because you've built that trust. And when you've built that trust with your photographer, it just, I mean, just your troubles melt away, your worries melt away. And you just get to step into your day, and your photographer can just step into their job and rock it out for you because you guys have shared your vision. And so, yeah, personality is obviously a huge part of that. I feel like every photographer really, because of the type of art they love to create, they have a bride who truly matches that. So for us, when we have a couple that matches our photography style, like everybody is so happy because they're like, wait, we don't have to look at the camera? And I'm like, no, you don't. But we know what it's like. You're like, oh, that's the thing staring at me. And then on your wedding day, there might be more than one camera on you at a time. So just having someone who makes you feel comfortable, and that's going to be a personality. When your personalities jive, the photographer can help you just relax because you know that you can trust them. I mean, that's just the biggest thing right there.
I totally resonate with that, because sometimes like we have to break really hard news of like, hey, girlfriend, like I know that you want this, but it is just not going to work because of whatever. And if the personality fit isn't there, like the trust isn't there, and so then they don't believe you. They think that you don't want to do it, or that you're incapable of doing it. Your skill set isn't there, and that's just not the case. But because like we're not aligning, you're not like you don't trust that what I'm telling you is actually, you know, it's true. So I totally hear that. So yeah, like personality, it's a big thing, I think, on all levels. But it's nice to hear on a photography level too, because I think a lot of times people just are like, oh, well, is your Instagram pretty? Can you do a nice like blown out photo, or you know, whatever, and not thinking about, well, who are these people that are going to be with me all dang day? Am I going to be like, what time do they leave again? Like, how long do we contract them to be here? Like, or you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that they're here. And, you know, it just adds to the, you know, the fun day, like as a whole. But so like along those same lines, my second question for you is, I know there are a lot of different people who promote that they do different types and styles of photography. And for the average bear, maybe that's kind of like a foreign thing. You're like, well, I don't really know what that means. I just see what your Instagram looks like, or what you post on Facebook, or what's on your website, you know, whatever mode of transportation and seeking out that particular vendor looks like for that bride. But can you sort of enlighten us on what different styles of photography are, and what they mean, and what you guys do specifically, and all of that?
Yeah, so I can definitely share a little. Like I'd mentioned earlier, every photographer ends up stepping into just what they love to do. And sometimes it comes, with every person and every artist in the world, it comes out looking different. So if you say you're a great portrait photographer, there could still be 20 of them in a room and all their portraits would turn out different, because the way that they view the world through their camera, the way they connect with their clients, their lens choices, everything supports what makes their art look unique. So there is such a gamut. There is, for your wedding day even, you'd be surprised at how many different styles of photography are out there. Even though we're all there to capture your wedding day, it means something different to each photographer. We've honed our skills. We've honed our, I would like to say our hunting skills, like what we're looking for. how we like to put it all together aesthetically. Each photographer is a little different. So I would say the gamut is from very formal and very staged all the way down to totally hands off. Like, I'm just here to document. I'm not going to touch, I'm not going to change a single thing in the room. And Mike and I in particular, I'd say we fall towards the documentary end, but we're never going to be so hands off. That is truly photojournalistic. And that is something that you think of just like magazine or, you know, news report photographers, how they would never interact in a scene. They're just there to capture what's happening. So that exists in wedding photography, but the gamut exists. And so, like you'd mentioned, check them out first as you're looking for photographers. Just who do you find yourself drawn to? Even if you're not sure why, that's okay if you don't know that yet. We wouldn't expect you to know. But just as you see their imagery, as you see the facial expressions on people, as you see how formal or casual it looks, what do you picture yourself in? So when you have your wedding album and you're looking through it, what is it you hope to see? Do you want someone who's really going to take care of the details, who's going to make sure that everything's in place? You're always in that nice flattering light. You know which side of your face photographs better, and your photographer has to look into that. Is it your swoop side? Is it not? You know, like, they got you. They've got you every step of the way. Those kind of wedding photographers exist. There's also, you know, towards our end, which is kind of more documentary. And we always want you to feel great about yourself in photos. We just happen to believe that the real you does look great in photos. We're always going to seek to take the most flattering photo, but if the moment's real and it's a tender moment, but it's not perfect looking, we're not going to stage that. We're not going to tweak the scene to make it look better. We're going to put our artistry on top of what's really happening and find just the best light, the best angle to really frame and highlight what's happening for real in that moment. So what that looks like for us is our portraits tend to be, they're not so perfectly staged. They tend to be more, we help you get relaxed and comfortable, and we guide you through an experience where you actually have a good time. Because when you're actually relaxed and you're actually happy, your images come out great. Whether they're portrait-y, you know, and portrait-y means just like the photographer's telling you how to stand. Okay. Or whether it's just, you know, like I mentioned earlier, those little transition moments where between the big stuff is kind of when the best real stuff happens. Some photographers look for that in between stuff more than others. And you should be able to tell by looking at their work what you would get on your wedding day. The one thing that I would say is, when you have a vision and maybe you just kind of like that photographer and you want to put your vision on their photography, but it's outside their skill set, like you'd mentioned earlier, it doesn't mean they're not good at what they do. It means they're great at what they do. And you need to find the artist who specializes in what you're looking for. And unfortunately, there's just no easy way to go about it. You got to roll up your sleeves. You got to talk to people. You got to ask real questions. And just imagine if my face was the one in all of these photos, would that make me happy? Would that light me up? Or would I be like, this isn't really me? You know, what's you?
That's totally a great way of looking, because I think we sort of instinctively do that a lot of times without knowing it. Of, oh, I mean, if I do my hair like, you know, Gigi Hadid, of course I'm going to look exactly like her. I'm going to be her, duh. So I think we, instinctively kind of do that without knowing it. But I never thought about it in a way of like looking at that image and thinking, but if that were me in that image, would I like that? Or do I just like this person as a person? And so then I'm going to try and make them do and then direct them the way that I want it to be done. Because I mean, that is something that I guess thinking, if I were a bride, I don't know that I'd want to have to control that of like, oh, did you get that shot? Oh, did you? And you probably, as a photographer, that's really annoying to you of like, oh, did you make sure to get Aunt Sally with that Sonic drink combination of the family members in that photo, along with the 900 million other ones? You know what I mean? And maybe that's you. And maybe then you need to search a photographer that lists, you know, hey, my specialty is like doing the Sonic drink combination of this aunt with these 4 and this aunt with these 3 and then the 2 and then you know, whatever. Yeah, that's such a great way of thinking about that, Julie.
Yeah. There are some people who rock at that. They're like, hey, get me that list of things that are the most important to you. We're going to get it all. There are other, I mean, of course, we want to know what's important to you, but we always like to say, you know, if I'm checking off a list, then I'm literally looking at a piece of paper instead of looking for your day. You know, there are moments that you will never get back. I cannot recreate. And if I'm not ready to hunt for them, I can't do that. And you just, as a bride, man, it's exhausting to wonder if it's going well. And that's not just with photography, that's with everything. So set yourself up to just like have so much fun on your wedding day. Like, I trust those people. We've already talked about it. Like, we have some brides who are like, you're the expert, you just do what you do. And we're like, okay, that's not
yeah. Sign me up, check.
right? And then we always say, like, what are some things about your day that we couldn't possibly know on our own? We're pretty good at sensing things, but you know, there's still one example from the past. We had a bride who had a great aunt, and she actually lives in Hawaii. And the bride was like, you know, this may be her last visit to the States, like ever. So if you could get some photos of her, that would be great. So I'm like, okay, who is Aunt? How many photos can I take of her? You know, and you've been in the wedding industry long enough to know that, I feel like this is a tangent, but it's important. We love capturing as many people as we can at your wedding. We can never guarantee that we're going to get a perfect flattering shot of every single guest, but boy, are we just going to try. Yeah. And there have been just too many times where couples have come back to us and they're saying, oh, you know, we're so grateful for like this photo or that photo that you caught because that person unfortunately passed. And this is one of the last great photos we had of them. And we're like, oh my gosh, you know, I mean, it's hard to like stay calm, but it just, man, like that's what makes us get up in the morning. And you can't always stage those.
Well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time, yours, and everybody that's watching too. But if you could leave a pro tip, not like piece of advice, but like if you could leave a pro tip to you as a bride when you were getting married years ago, knowing what you know now, if you could leave a pro tip to you, then what would you say?
Okay,
Sorry, I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this.
Okay. Two of them, and they're totally unrelated. Is that okay?
Bonus, yeah, totally.
Okay. The first is plan all the things for your wedding day, but just remember that it's not your marriage. So your wedding day is great, but it's just the beginning of a whole marriage. So prepare for your marriage even more than you prepare for your wedding day, because like you're going to be married a long time.
Yeah.
You're going to want that to go well. Yeah. And then the second is get real flowers. It's the one thing from my wedding day that back then, I mean, like we were 22, fresh out of college, no money. And I was like, fake flowers sound great. And now that I have been in weddings, I love real flowers. I love real flowers. And it sounds like crazy and totally unrelated to anything I've said, but it's the one thing that if I could go back, I would be like, get a few real flowers. You know, even if it's just a bride's bouquet, there's something about them. They're just like, they bring magic to the day. So that was totally unrelated, but.
I agree. I totally agree with that. I did the same. I used fake flowers and I look back and I'm like, ooh.
Right.
I should have just spent the money. Like it would have been worth it.
I got married so long ago. It didn't like, weddings weren't cool. So I didn't even like, think about it.
What year did you get married, Julie?
2002.
Oh, okay. I got married in 2009 and it was still on the uptick of like things being
on your way there. Yeah.
It was still like, nah, it's fine, whatever. And I look back and I'm like, shh, don't show anybody. It's fine. It's true. Well, thank you, Julie, for your time. I really appreciate it a lot. Yeah. And I know all of our brides watching feel a little bit more educated on all of the things now. You and Mike are just so talented, and we're lucky to have you in Kansas City. And I know you guys travel too. If you know anybody's looking for some fantastic documentation of all of the life things, get Joe Sista up, write her. So, well, we will leave everyone to it. Thank you so much for tuning in. So have a great day, everybody.